Curing Cancers My Experience with Spooky2 version 1.00, June 2013. My story. My name is Johann Stegmann. I am a native of South Africa, an enlightened country where Rife therapy is legally used to treat all kinds of medical conditions, including life-threatening illnesses like cancer. Some years ago, I was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Like most people, I accepted the doctor's recommendation of chemotherapy, and underwent 3 doses. Each one was like an endless stay in hell. And I suffered every side effect in the book. To deal with the severe pain, I was given Duragesic patches. These are effective for 3 days, and about 80 times stronger than morphine. They are also extremely addictive, and whenever I tried to reduce the potency, I experienced severe side effects. I ended up having no choice but to use them for 6 months. At the same time as this was happening, the father of an acquaintance of mine was diagnosed with stomach cancer and given 6 months to live, unless he agreed to have his stomach removed. By chance, this man heard of someone who was treating people with a Rife machine. In desperation, he had 10 treatments. On his next hospital visit, he was given a gastroscopy. A camera was inserted down his throat into his stomach. His cancer had completely disappeared. So I contacted this man's Rife therapist and had 4 sessions over the course of a week. My next hospital appointment was shortly thereafter, and I had a scan and blood count performed. My doctor could not believe his eyes when he saw my scan report. He tried to convince me that even though my cancer was no longer visible, it was still present. My blood counts were far better than he expected to see, especially my immune system results, since chemotherapy destroys this. Whether my doctor liked it or not, the bottom line is that I was cured of my cancer within 7 days by using Rife therapy. It is entirely understandable for people to be skeptical about alternative cancer treatments. There are many to be found on the internet that make wild claims which are patently false. I spent months investigating all of them, and I found that most are simply hogwash. The Rife machine is altogether different. Physics proves that everything in the universe has its own unique frequency: cells, organs, body systems, pathogens, parasites, elements, and even planets and stars. When you know the frequency of a diseased cell or pathogen, a Rife machine enables you to kill or modify it. It destroys the mechanism inside cancer cells that causes the growth, and those cells then return to a normal healthy state. It also kills the virus that caused the cancer in the first place, something that conventional medicine cannot do. All of us have the potential for cancer in the form of a bacteria that can mutate into a cancer virus. This virus is not normally present, nor are cancer cells kept in check by our immune systems, as many believe. But when something dramatic happens to us that changes the ecological balance in a specific part of the body, this triggers the bacterial mutation, and cancer can then manifest in one organ or another. To rebalance the body, the conflict created by the dramatic experience must be resolved to reverse the mutation, the remaining viruses killed, the immune system fully restored, and all toxic waste removed. All 4 of these tasks must be done for success, with the first being most important. Dr. Royal Raymond Rife discovered all this back in the late 1920s and early 1930s. He proved it, too, by using his machine to cure 14 cancer and TB patients declared terminal by doctors. Several GPs bought his machine and began treating their patients, with a 100% success rate. So why don't doctors use Rife machines today? To understand what happened, ask yourself this simple question: when you can cure yourself of any disease on earth with a simple machine and a little electricity, who stands to lose almost everything? Medical authorities and the giant pharmaceutical corporations stepped in. First, they tried to buy his technology. He refused to sell. And then odd things started to happen. Vital research results and machine parts went missing, a lab testing his machines mysteriously burned to the ground, and doctors who had been queuing up to buy his machines now no longer wanted to speak to him. Disaster followed disaster, and the ostracized genius who had initially been feted by medicine as the man who brought an end to all disease was ruined and driven out of business. And his technology all but disappeared from history. Today, the cancer industry generates hundreds of billions in profits. And if Big Pharma were a nation, it would rank as the 12th richest country on earth. The price for this success? Uncountable millions of needless deaths, and human suffering that can't even be imagined. But in the end, Those who sought to erase Rife from the pages of history failed. His technology was rediscovered in the 1970s, and, even though still harried and persecuted in most of the West, it has steadily been improved and upgraded. But Rife therapy didn't just save my life, it changed it utterly, too. Because I decided to devote the rest of my days to investigating and understanding how this astounding therapy worked, and to put that knowledge freely at the disposal of all who needed it. I spent years carefully researching and monitoring its effects on myself, my family, and my friends for various conditions, some serious, and some not so serious. For more than 2 years now, with the help of my daughter, Tanya, I have been treating people with various cancers. To date, our successes have far outstripped our few failures. Thanks to my good friends Des and Hank, we discovered and developed a prototype system to enable Rife therapy to be delivered remotely via DNA. John White then took that prototype and made it a thing of beauty and power. Spooky, a Rife machine for every home, for less than $65. Thankfully, I have no formal conventional medical training. This enabled me to keep a completely open mind throughout the course of my research. I have used instead the tools with which my Creator endowed me: curiosity, intelligence, observation, persistence, intuition, and common sense. I have taken nothing for granted, not even those treatments commonly accepted by most Rife practitioners and researchers. I have intensively investigated and tested most of them, and my findings have caused controversy in some circles. I welcome this. I believe that any status quo is mankind's greatest enemy, and that all human endeavors can only be judged by one thing: results. Cancers, tumors and cysts. People, and doctors, see any abnormal growth as cancer. They also see cancer, tumors, and cysts as basically the same thing. But when treating them, they are very different indeed. A cancer is caused by the BX and BY virus, and must be treated with Rife cancer programs. A tumor is not caused by these viruses, but by other things, and Rife cancer programs have no effect on them. Both look like cancer because both grow and invade. I believe the medical classification of malignant and benign is totally wrong. Doctors see malignancies as cancerous tumors that can invade and destroy nearby tissue and spread to other parts of the body. They see malignancies as tumors that are not cancerous, which may grow large, but which do not invade and destroy nearby tissue, and do not spread to other parts of the body. I have found that benign tumors can, and do, invade and spread to other parts of the body. To view these as malignant is wrong because it will lead to using the incorrect treatment, and failure. The commonly accepted belief is that you have a primary cancer site. This cancer then spreads or metastasizes to other parts of the body. The resultant cancer in these other parts of the body is then the same as that of the primary cancer, although in a different body part. This can be true or false, subject to what I've stated above. Tanya sees a cancer tumor as black and a benign tumor as gray. This confused me at first because I found that some tumors she saw as black cancers cleared up with non-cancer programs. I have dealt with 3 lung tumors and 2 brain tumors so far, and Tanya saw each of them as black, but I cured them with non-cancer programs. Cancer programs had no effect on them. So it would appear that even if the cancer starts in the lungs or brain, as the primary sites, the tumor is benign and is not caused by the BX and BY virus. If these were not the primary sites, the same still applies. I believe that the type of tissue in the lungs and brain is what makes tumors appear cancerous when they develop, and these are seen in our work as black, not gray. From my experience so far, most so-called cancers are in actual fact not cancer as defined above, but normal tumors that must be treated with non-cancer programs. There is no primary cancer site at all. This creates major problems for the patients. They hear the word cancer and that is enough to drive them into a state of fear and panic. According to Dr. Hammer of New German medicine fame, cancer occurs in an organ. This is a primary site. However, organs as defined with regard to cancer are not clear at all. I believe that the major organs are the ones that develop true cancer, but not all of them. I now know, for instance, that a kidney tumor is not cancerous. This is still very much to be explored and determined. We are working in a field where I believe we must question everything, and determine the truth through practice. What causes cancer here? I refer to true cancer, not tumors. To be considered a true cause of cancer, Science dictates the golden rule that when a certain condition exists, it must always, not sometimes, produce the same result. Most cancer causality theories fail this test. Things like a compromised immune system, lack of toxic waste elimination, etc., do not always produce cancer, only sometimes. Dr. Rife discovered, observed, and recorded with his microscope the fact that a bacteria metamorphoses to a virus that causes cancer. He called this the BX&BY virus, but could not explain why the bacteria changed its form. Dr. Hammer found that when any human being undergoes a dramatic and unexpected experience that they cannot emotionally resolve, they develop a cancer in a specific organ dependent on the type of experience. The environment in that area of the body organ changes and causes the bacteria to mutate to the BX&BY virus form. This happens every time, without fail. I found this to be evident in treating true cancer. If the emotional conflict that caused the cancer in the first place is not resolved, removing the cancerous growth takes much longer, and the growth will eventually return. If the conflict is resolved, a cure takes place very quickly, and the cancer does not return. Conflicts to be resolved. According to Dr. Hammer, resolving such conflicts is of the utmost importance. When antibiotics first came into general use, some people experienced pain and nausea after taking them. The pharmaceutical corporations claimed that this was due to their products working so well that the body was unable to process and eliminate the overload of dead bacteria. This nonsense has now carried over into riffing. Whenever the sick bad feeling is experienced, it is always attributed to the large die-off. Wrong. In the many years I have treated people, none of them experienced herx. The only odd exceptions were due to errors on my part. If you experience nausea or pain, you are damaging the body in one way or another, and it has nothing to do with die-off. It is the body's way of telling you to stop what you are doing because it is causing harm. I have found that the main cause of this is setting the intensity of the Rife device too high. Higher intensity does not mean you are killing more bugs or shrinking a tumor any faster. Whether you use high or low intensity, the same number of organisms is being killed. High-intensity riffing irritates the nerves, and they react. Parasites. Dr. Hulda Clark was convinced that parasites caused cancer, and many still believe this to be the case. However, it fails the crucial always test. You do not always have cancer when you have parasites, only sometimes. Diet. Another erroneous belief is that when you have cancer you must change to a special diet. The claim is that you must avoid certain foods or food groups as these feed the cancer. Not true at all. I have cured many cancers over the years and no sufferers ever had to change diet. They ate what they normally ate, and the cancer was cured regardless. I believe a well-balanced diet, without excluding any food groups, is essential for a healthy body. How to approach treatment? First, try to determine is it a true cancer or a tumor. In 90% of cases, it will be a tumor and not a true cancer. A good guide is if you had chemo, and it had no effect, then it is a tumor, not a true cancer. While it is true that chemo can have some positive effects on tumors, it is also a fact that it will not cure them. The area of the body is also a good guide. Lung and brain cancer is always a tumor and never a true cancer. I have also found breast cancer always to be a tumor and not a true cancer. On balance, I would say that true cancer may only be found in the liver and pancreas, and other locations are normally tumors. When selecting Rife programs, I would go the tumor programs route first, and if they do not work, then choose the cancer programs. Second, and most important, determine and start work on the conflict that caused the cancer tumor in the first place. If you do not resolve this, you will not be cured properly. This means you need to get closure on it. You must make a definite deep-seated decision about it, but remember, if it is not genuine, true, and from the heart, it will not work. You cannot lie to yourself. The problem became rooted deep with pain, and that pain must resurface to uproot it. Be brutally honest with yourself. Chemo and Rife. The aim of chemo is to kill any fast-growing cell, good or bad. Chemo is poison that is pumped into your body in the hope that it will kill the cancer before it kills the body. In this process, it breaks down the immune system and all of your organs. Rife has as its aim to kill only the cancer tumor cells and let the body perform its own healing process. You should not do Rife and chemo at the same time because one breaks down, and the other builds up, and the destruction is much faster than the building up. Each must make his or her own choice to go with rifting or chemo. You cannot productively choose both, and it can be very difficult to turn back once you have made your choice. If you've already had chemo, be aware that your task is now a good deal more difficult but not impossible. So you can see that your life may literally depend on the choice you make. The many cancers tumors the following frequency sets are for remote treatment. In all treatments, irrespective of the type of cancer tumor, continuously detoxing the body, supporting the organs, and stimulating the immune system is of the utmost importance. Spooky contains programs to do all of this. Brain tumors. You should assume from the beginning that the diagnosis made by doctors is wrong. I have yet to find one that is correct. Notes: programs containing one single frequency must be run continuously for about 2 hours daily. The other programs must be run at least 5 times a day but not more than 10 times. Remember that these are remote treatments, and the intensity must not be more than 2 volts. To use contact electrodes, have the durations. The larger the tumor, the longer it will take to disappear. A 2 cm by 2 cm tumor will take about 1 month. Tumors do not shrink faster by treating them for longer. They each have their own rate of shrinking. Treating for too long may result in brain inflammation, especially in young children. I found inflammation does occur to some extent when treating any brain tumor, so run meningitis frequencies at least once after each treatment. The MRI scan used for brain tumors is unable to distinguish between a tumor and scar tissue. When a tumor is removed, it leaves behind scar tissue damage from that tumor. An MRI scan will detect the scar tissue, and the doctors will say the tumor is still there. Only a PET scan will differentiate between tumors and scar tissue. So ask for a PET scan to be done. Breast cancer. I found fibrosarcoma, 1744, to work every time, without fail. Run it for about a week non-stop. The biggest problem I encountered was the chemo pills given to women. These throw their hormonal balance into complete disarray by reducing the estrogen level. To get this in balance again is much more difficult than curing the cancer. Note that doctors do a CA15-3 test to measure the progress of the cancer. This does not measure the tumor directly, it gauges the estrogen level, which serves as a marker for the doctor to ascertain whether the tumor is worse or improved. Doctors firmly believe that high estrogen creates breast tumors. To get the hormonal balance correct, one of the treatments is actually to boost the estrogen level. Prostate cancer. This can be either true cancer or just something wrong with the gland that causes it to grow in size. Tanya cannot see the difference. So start with the non-cancer programs, as you should feel any improvement rather immediately. Then, if there is no improvement after, say, 3 days, go for the cancer programs. Doctors make use of the PSA test, which has now been proven to be unreliable, but is still being used. This test has caused lots of problems, leading some men to believe they have prostate cancer when they do not. So please do not take this test result seriously. Go for a physical examination instead. Adrenal and kidney cancer. It is normally believed that this is an adrenal gland tumor, but because this gland sits on top of the kidney will most likely also be involved. I have just had one case of this, so it is still open for other treatments. Run kidney papilloma. Run the ebook program about 10 times consecutively for about 3 days. In the case I dealt with, a carrot scan showed the tumor in the adrenal gland. But Tanya saw it as being partly in the kidney and partly in the adrenal. If she had not seen this, I would never have investigated the kidney direction, and would not have found the correct program. I tried the adrenal gland direction and only found cancer adenoma, which did not work. I then tried non-Hodgkin's and it removed the adrenal tumor. The adrenal gland is part of the lymph system, and this is the reason it worked. It made the lymph system improve, and removed emphysema in the lungs. Lung tumor cancer. Running fibrosis of the lung, 27.5, 220,410 dwell 360, or 6 minutes each removes the tumor, if not the primary site. This worked in all 3 cases I treated. Run it about 10 times consecutively for about 14 days, depending on the size of the tumor. Note that these programs do not contain any cancer frequencies. Do not run it for more times in an attempt to reduce the shrinking time. When you run this program, the tumor contracts and expands, and if you run it for too long, it will irritate the surrounding area and cause pain. I did this once with very painful consequences for the sufferer. If the lung was the primary site, the tumor will reduce to about 10% of its original size. To remove this last 10%, run kidney papilloma 110182646347678489117, 760762, 1102 dwell 183 minutes each. Run the above program about 10 times consecutively for about 2 days. This was an interesting exercise that showed how deep one must delve to get to the true answer. A kidney tumor normally forms in the cervical, outer surface/mucous membranes, of the kidney. But cervicals are found in many places in the body, and it would appear that the same principle applies skin, vagina, penis, oropharynx, and anus, etc. On the web, they concentrate on the sexual organs, and you could easily miss places like the kidney, and even the lungs and others not mentioned. You need to look at the principle involved to get to the truth. I am sure you would be surprised for what other tumors it would also apply. For instance, I tried to run squamous cell carcinoma without success, but saw that papilloma is actually the cause of squamous cell carcinoma. It is also the cause of adenocarcinoma, for which I had no program, and which was one of the possible kidney tumors. From this I conclude that papilloma may be at the root of many tumors. When you see papilloma, you normally think of warts. Well, that's what I thought of when I saw this. The end.